Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everyone. Yes, sorry. I launched the wrong stream. Ecamm did me improper, but we're here. So, yes, here we are. Y'all have been waiting here in the right stream. And then I launched a totally new Renegade stream just now, and talked for 3 minutes. So I apologize. We'll just, pretend like that never happened. Because if you're watching on the rewatch, it never did happen. So, all right. Where's my microphone? Let me just make sure my mic is going here. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Hope you had a good holiday. Overlays. Where's my little... I need my mute button. That's what I'm trying to find, guys. Sorry. 1 second here. No, where's my goddamn mute button? It went away. It's hiding from me. We all know I need a mute button to get through a live stream here, so... But yes, today's stream, guys, is going to be... I am stoked. I was up last night making notes. This is going to be not a scripted live stream, but a heavily outlined live stream with quotes and all kinds of stuff. So I am very excited. Oh, I know where it is. There it is. There it is. There. If I don't have the ability to mute myself, then we can't have fun here. So yes, ho, ho, ho. I've got the horns. Santa Lightbringer is here. The real Santa is psyched out, smoking on the peace pipe. Santa, by the way, you think he lives in the North Pole? That's only during Christmas. The rest of the time he lives in California, where smoking on things, the good stuff, it's legal. Totally legal. Just like your buddy David Lightbringer, living in California. We never promote illegal activity here on YouTube. Never, never, never. So, guys, we've got a great stream today. This is going to be Winterfell mythology, but it's going to be the hot side of Winterfell mythology. Meaning, you think about the Starks as associated with ice, right? The pact of ice and fire. The ice side is the Starks. The fire is the Targaryens. Starks live in the north. You got Jon Ice Eyes Stark, Edric Snowbeard Stark. But when you dive into Stark mythology and Winterfell mythology, you find a lot of dragon ideas, fiery, hellish ideas, hellhounds, gargoyles. So what's this about? A lot of it's about Jon Snow. Some of it's about Azor Ahai, because of course the last hero is associated with the Starks, but the last hero and his blade of dragon steel, who fought the others, sounds a lot like Azor Ahai with Lightbringer fighting the others. So we've always known there's a potential connection there. So we're going to go into mythology and symbolism of Winterfell. Yeah, we have snow in California. Good Lord, we have snow. We have lots of mountains in California, and they all get snow. Go to Lake Tahoe. It's about the best place to see snow. So yeah. Winter has come in America, that is true. Who's going to resurrect Jon Snow? Possibly the others. But who's going to free Jon's body from the others? Evil spells, that could be Melisandre, yes. Lady Stoneheart, no. I just inhaled wig on the inhale with that. Yeah, Mount Shasta has snow even in the summer. Used to have a friend that lived up there. Drove by Mount Shasta many times. So, yes, King of Winter, wigs and antlers, we're all here. It's a merry 2 days after Christmas stream. First time catching it live, Terry Johnson, thank you. Guys, your questions are welcome. This is not a scripted live stream, but it is an outline. I've got a bunch of information to present, but you're welcome to pipe in with your questions, basically anytime. We will start off talking about last week's subject, the Pact of Ice and Fire, and then we're going to go into all kinds of other stuff. Oh, it's Girl Nettles in the chat. Shout out to Girl Nettles. Thanks for dropping in. So yeah, like I said, you think about the Starks being associated with ice and winter, Edric Snowbeard, Kings of Winter, but there's a lot of dragon stuff. And in fact, when you open, when I closed it, I had it open to the page. I was prepared on the other stream, which wasn't the right stream. Anyways, you go to the Winterfell page, right? In the world of Ice and Fire. That's what I'm leafing through. It's got a bit about the North, Kings of Winter, World of Ice and Fire. This is the extent of the section on Winterfell. No, it's not. Sorry. This is the section on Winterfell. And so on the left, you can see Ted Nasmith's Winterfell. And then there's a total of like 9 paragraphs. 4 of them are about dragons or Dragonstone. And there's 3 specific references in this section, which really jumped out to me when I first got The World of Ice and Fire way back in 2014, right? So I'm going to read this a little bit, and you can see it on the screen. I find it helps people to put the notes and quotes up on the screen as we go. So, and real quick, let's shout out our artists to my left. You can see Dmitry Leonovich on the left side. That is the Winterfell dragon that Summer saw. Bran saw it through Summer's eyes. It was a winged snake whose roar was a river of flame. It may have just been the exploding castle, but it kind of sounds like a dragon. And we've always wondered if that's the thing. So we'll talk about that theory towards the end of the stream here. But it may just be symbolism, and a lot of that symbolism is going to apply to Jon Snow and Azor Ahai. And so in the middle picture, is Fadly Romdhani. And that's the one I used for the cover of this stream. That's Jon as Azor Ahai on Regal, obviously. And then we've got the Crypts of Winterfell by Fran Vegas on the far right, with the stone direwolves and stuff like that. So, this passage that I was talking about, it says, we can dismiss Mushroom's claim in his testimony, and this is the World of Ice and Fire describing the events of the Pact of Ice and Fire that we talked about a few days ago, right? So we can discuss Mushroom's claim in his testimony, dismiss rather, that the dragon Vermax left a clutch of eggs somewhere in the depths of Winterfell's crypts, where the waters of the hot springs run close to the walls, while his rider treated with Cregan Stark at the start of the Dance of the Dragons. As Archmaester Gildane notes in his fragmentary history, there is no record that Vermax ever laid so much as a single egg, suggesting that the dragon was male. And you can see they're not quite sure, right? The belief that dragons could change sex at need is erroneous, according to Maester Anson's truth, rooted in a misunderstanding of the esoteric metaphor that Barth preferred when discussing the higher mysteries. I think that's right. I think the Maesters are right about this. I actually don't know that dragons can change sex. I think that we just don't understand dragon reproduction. But I do think that Barth, when he's talking about male and female, that's more about the prince that was promised stuff, in my opinion. I'm not sure about that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I actually think that is what Barth was talking about as a metaphor, not literal dragon's gender, but just my take on that. I suspect dragons may reproduce asexually, but the fact that some dragons do consistently lay eggs and some don't means there are probably male and female. So I just think that if dragons had to copulate to get pregnant, there'd be a record of that. People would observe that, probably make a lot of noise. Down there in the dragon pit. You're like, what's all that rustling? Anyway, so within its walls, and this is Winterfell again, the castle sprawls across several acres of land, encompassing many freestanding buildings. The oldest of these, a long abandoned tower, round and squat, and covered in gargoyles, has become known as the First Keep. Some take this to mean that it was built by the First Men, but Maester Kennett has definitively proved that it could not have existed before the arrival of the Andals, since the first men in the Andals raised square towers and keeps. The early Andals, rather. Round towers came somewhat later. So I think that this is wrong. Storm's End is a round tower design, and so is Castle Pike. Now, Castle Pike is very conclusively fucking old. Like, older than the Andals. It's built before that jut of land collapsed. And the remainder of Castle Pike, and I'm talking about the Greyjoys' Castle Pike, is on the 3 remaining promontories. But a lot of it has fallen into the sea. So this is super old, and it's a round tower design. Then we have Storm's End, whose origins probably date back to Long Night and the Age of Heroes, and it's a round design. And again, they use the round design to say that it must be an Andal castle. But I think that's like sort of reverse logic. So the First Keep potentially has been rebuilt over its history, which means that its most recent form could have been built by Andals, but still long enough to fall into ruin. However, I think the first keep could be very, very old. It is the original part of the castle, hence the name First Keep, obviously. So we'll come back to the layout of Winterfell in just a second, but file that away about the First Keep, right? It says, the oldest of these, so covered with gargoyles. That's the other thing that we're going to come back to. So put a pin in that one too. And then it says, hot springs, such as the one beneath Winterfell, have been shown to be heated by the furnaces of the world, the same fires that made the 14 flames or the smoking mountain of Dragonstone. Yet the small folk of Winterfell and the Winter Town have been known to claim that the springs are heated by the breath of a dragon that sleeps beneath the castle. This is even more foolish than Mushroom's claims and need not be given any further consideration, which is the same thing the Maesters say about, like, the others, by the way, and all kinds of other stuff that we know is actually true. So just keep that in mind. Now, I think it's interesting here. So two things. One, they're comparing the geothermic activity at Winterfell to Dragonstone, and that's good science. That's correct. Hot springs, geothermic vents like Yellowstone, for example. There's a giant volcano under Yellowstone that's been dormant for a long time. Cross your fingers. That's creating those hot springs. So that's definitely, it's all geothermic activity of one sort or another. So I'm not sure the exact science of how much magma, if you always need like a giant magma caldera or whatever to create hot springs, but they are related activities. And so the Maesters know that. So they're bringing up Dragonstone and comparing it to Winterfell. And then in the next breath, they're like, and there's this foolish story about how there might be a dragon sleeping under Winterfell. So that's, just a weird story. But again, why do they keep bringing up dragons and Winterfell? And of course, all of this is coming after the paragraph about Jace and Vermax, which is the most realistic of all these things, because obviously Vermax was there, and because they did sign a pact, a dragon egg could make sense. Like I said, Rhaenyra could have sent it with Jace to seal the pact, or Vermax, who died during the war, of course, and didn't live very long, could have been female. And that was really her first clutch of eggs that she may have laid at Winterfell. And then she just never had a chance to lay more eggs. So that's why it's suspect when they say, well, Vermax was never known to lay eggs. Well, Vermax was 13. So I don't know when dragons start laying eggs, but Vermax was a very young dragon and didn't live long. So we don't know that. But like I said, they're just throwing out stuff left and right. Dragons, dragon eggs, hot springs, Dragonstone. So what's the deal here? Well, the Starks stand against the cold more than they are cold. That's the first thing I want to say. In case I didn't mention, if you want to get in with super chats and questions throughout the stream, feel free. I do have an outline and all that stuff, but I can definitely take questions as we go. It's pretty flexible, so don't feel like you just got to listen. I will be keeping eyes on the chat because this is definitely an open discussion kind of thing. So if you guys have brilliant observations, feel free to pipe up, and I will try to keep my eye on that. And obviously everything having to do with Vermax and the Pact of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon is going to give us their version of that in season 2. So we'll get some more fodder to talk, to discuss that. Oh, let me get my antlers straight. Come on, antlers. There we go. All right. So guys, Winterfell's hot springs. Let's talk about that first. Legend says that Bran the Builder raised Winterfell after the Long Night to be a stronghold for his descendants. And that's obvious that hot springs, right? It's a great place to build a castle in the far north where the snows are 40 feet deep. This is like tundra here. And not only tundra, but we have ice demons. So building a castle around hot springs, very obvious thing to do. So then we've got the fact that they didn't level the land. So as far as spoilers go, we're not really going to be talking about House of the Dragon here. Only Jason Vermax, really. So very minor spoilers, I would say. Just the fact that, just what I already said, that Vermax doesn't survive the war. That's about it. But most of the dragons died during the war, so, spoiler alert. The tundra is usually dry. You're thinking taiga. Yeah, thank you. That's correct. just the far north. This is the point. It's very far north. It's a place where the snows can go 40 feet deep. I think that speaks for itself. So they didn't level the land. What does that tell you? It tells you that the crypts, as we're told, is in fact the oldest part of Winterfell. Winterfell Castle was built around the Godswood and the crypts, essentially. And the crypts are made in natural caverns. There's a very important quote. It says, the springs, quote, pepper the land around Winterfell. Okay? So the hot springs aren't just in the Godswood of Winterfell. They're all around the castle in the woods, too, in the Wolf's Wood. That makes it very likely that the caverns that the Winterfell crypts are built into actually will connect to the outside of the castle. There's probably a little cave somewhere in the woods where it comes out into the woods. So when we talk about Vermax finding a warm spot in the Winterfell crypts, that actually could be in any part of those caverns, and he could have entered there from the outside, because more logically than Vermax like slipping through that door that Hodor had to open under the first keep and going down the little spiral stair, Vermax wouldn't have gone in that way. Vermax would have been hunting in the woods or being kept right outside the castle and would have stumbled upon that cave, felt the hot air coming out of the cave, as a dragon does, looking for a place to roost, and just crawled down into the warm cave. So it's pretty realistic scenario that they're throwing out, but it's important to realize that this all probably connects. And we've seen that there's all kinds of caves and stuff that go through, like Under the Wall, Gorn's Way, Bloodraven's Cave, and all that stuff like that, right? So the crypts are under the first keep in the Godswood. That's how they're laid out. So essentially what you have is whoever was making Winterfell, Bran the Builder or the original Starks, they built it around these hot springs, the natural caverns, the hollow hills that were there, and the weirwood tree that was there. Then they threw up a keep and started building walls and castles around it to fortify it. That's why they didn't level the land, is because those hills are hollow. Shout out Wiz the Smith. And they contain the caverns. So we wouldn't want to drill into those and get rid of those, right? So that's the scenario of Winterfell. Now, I will also point out that it seems like most First Man castles are built around Godswoods. And just like, Storm's End, Casterly Rock, and almost all of those Godswoods have caves underneath. Storm's End has the caverns that we saw Melisandre use to give birth to the Shadow Baby. And of course, what's the other place I just said? Storm's End. Casterly Rock has the weirwood actually down in the grotto, in the caverns under the rock. And of course, the whole rock is strewn with caverns. And then you have like the Night Fort too, which, like I said, is very obviously built around the weirwood organism, because the weirwood organism is the most unique thing we've seen anywhere in Westeros. And it's sprouting a weirwood up top and also has the talking face down below. So you've got the well, you've got some sort of cavern. The well basically is built to get down to the cavern. That's probably the way to think about it. So First Men build castles around Godswoods for whatever reason. They worshipped the old gods, so it kind of makes sense. Really what it comes down to is that the Children of the Forest helped the First Men of the Night's Watch band together to beat the others. The Children of the Forest showed man how to survive the long night by hiding in the caves, by taking shelter with the weirwood magic, by seeking warm places, probably by eating the blind fish down there and the mushrooms in the caves. So that's why, in my opinion, the First Men started worshiping the weirwoods, and that's why they built these castles around the weirwoods. That's my headcanon anyways. So this is a quote from A Game of Thrones. It says, "Of all the rooms in Winterfell's great keep, Catelyn's bedchambers were the hottest. She seldom had to light a fire. The castle had been built over natural hot springs, and the scalding waters rushed through its walls and chambers like blood through a man's body, driving the chill from the stone halls, filling the glass gardens with a moist warmth, keeping the earth from freezing. Open pools smoked day and night in a dozen small courtyards. That was a little thing in summer. In winter, It was the difference between life and death. So, really interesting comparison with blood and a man's body. So we really are supposed to think of Winterfell as like this hot-blooded organism, and the Starks as part of that, right? Real quick, any casting news for season 2? Yeah, I don't know. I've got no idea. I haven't heard any. I usually would hear about that on Twitter, but I haven't heard any. Praise Garth, says J.S. Holgren. Thanks, Jens. Thanks for supporting the program. You can do that with the join button, by the way, below. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this. I got a little squisher in my throat here I'm trying to get rid of. So yeah, it's compared to a body and to hot blood. John makes a similar comparison. He says, so cold, he thought. He's at Castle Black now. Remembering the warm halls of Winterfell, where the hot waters ran through the walls like blood through a man's body. So that's the first thing. Winterfell is an outpost against the cold, just on a basic level. Then we go to the King of Winter crown. It's a very interesting passage here. Lord Hoster Smith had done his work well, and Robb's crown looked as much as the other was said to have looked in the tales told of the Stark kings of old, an open circlet of hammered bronze, incised with the runes of the first men, surmounted by 9 black iron spikes wrought in the shape of long swords. Of golden, silver, and gemstones it had none. Bronze and iron were the metals of winter, dark and strong to fight against the cold. So this is a very interesting thematic idea. It's kind of a magic idea. It's kind of a thematic idea. So bronze actually does do really well in the cold. You can get it real cold and it still won't become brittle and break. So bronze weapons are very good in northern climates, whereas iron can get brittle and break. Nevertheless, iron has a lot of folkloric associations about chasing away vampires and spirits and things like that. So that's why they say about the others, they don't like the touch of fire and iron. Pardon me. Fire and iron. So that's a bit of a folkloric thing. So dark and strong to fight against the cold. This is interesting. Iron is important because, of course, the kings of winter, as Fran Vegas has depicted over here, approximately in the upper right corner for y'all. They have the iron swords across their laps, and these are again a magical talisman. Has to do with warding, right? So the King of Winter crown, it is dedicated to fighting the cold. So the Starks, not necessarily cold people. They're people who master the cold and who live in the cold, but fight against it. So that's kind of a thematic thing that's tied right to the King of Winter crown, which I'm not wearing a crown, but I'm pointing to my head where it would go. That makes sense. All right. So, like I said, Kings of Winter, they have swords across their laps. But before we get to those, let's go back to last Christmas when I gave you my heart. The very next day. No. The King of Winter, sorry, a little Mariah Carey just flashed through my head there. The Kings of Winter it's a folkloric thing, and it's part of the Green Man and Wicker Man tradition. So the King of Winter, he's a little green man that you make. He's like a foot or 2 feet tall. You make him out of the extra shoots from the harvest, the stalks, things you don't use. You tie them together, you make a little wicker man. And then at Beltane in the spring, you burn him. And the burning of this wicker man, the King of Winter, is supposed to help usher in the spring. And it's saying goodbye to the last year. No, I didn't sing Mariah Carey. I just referenced it. My voice isn't in singing mode right now. It was earlier. It's just gone out right before the stream. I don't know what happened. In fact, here's Reading Rhaegar. Let me just see if I can clear this out, and I'll give you some Reading Rhaegar. I'll be back in 30 seconds, folks. And we're back. Hello, friends. Thanks for joining me. Merry Christmas. Bottoms up. This, by the way, is an old singer's trick. A little henny. You can blame it on the goose or the henny. And I call Cleo Henny because she's a hen. So that's a song that gets bastardized quite a lot around here. Anyways, where were we? King of Winter. Oh, that's much better. Oh, yes. It's reading rainbow, reading rainbow. There we go. Bad squishers in my throat. Go away, squishers. All right. So like I said, King of Winter mythology, as I just explained, has to do with ushering in the spring. That's what we need to do in this story. Solve the long night. We got to get rid of winter and bring in the spring. The whole evil of the long night is that it's breaking the cycle of the seasons, which is sacred. So instead of winter being a time of cold and death that refreshes the land and gives birth to spring, it just stays winter. And it stays dead and cold, and the others come out and screw everything up, and everyone has a bad time. So that's the whole thing. And same thing with the day-night cycle. It gets broken. Night is fine, but it needs to give way to morning at some point. And so when it doesn't, we need the sword of the morning. You see how this goes. The weapons, the heroes that we need are associated with spring, with morning, because we're all fighting against the long night, right? It's pretty basic, but I just want to point that out. So in particular, the King of Winter, he's a dead green man, just like all the Night's Watchmen have the green man symbolism, dead green man symbolism. And the main thing is that he's set on fire to help bring the spring. Now, Jon Snow is the main avatar of the King of Winter archetype in the story. I believe he will be named King of the North. And King of the North is really just King of Winter. And so Jon is probably going to become a fire wight at some point to help bring the spring and end the long night. Like, doesn't this sound just like the King of Winter, right? Jon's going to catch on fire. He's going to be like a burning wicker man, and he's going to help bring the spring. So that's first off. I failed you yet again, Starscream. Failed you yet again. Where was I? Okay. I think that was a good 2 minutes. Why is the chat so behind? I'm blaming that one on YouTube being so behind. Where's the sound? Yeah, see, they're going to keep rolling now for like 60 seconds. So to recap quickly what I just said to you in mime. Lucifer means Mindbringer. I'm so sorry, guys. I feel really bad. I know it's funny. We make a joke out of it. I'm sorry. I try not to do that. I'll try to keep it together. There's got a lot on my screen here. In any case, so the King of Winter. The point of the King of Winter is that he's a green man who is burned to bring the spring, right? You heard that, right? Did we hear that? We got that? So Jon Snow, he's the main avatar of the King of Winter in the story. He probably will be named King of the North. But symbolically, he's the King of Winter already. So he is going to become a fire wight at some point, and he's going to help defeat the long night, right? So the King of Winter in folklore is a dead wicker man. And I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I wish it would. I don't know why it's so behind. But yeah, it's frustrating. Because that's the only way I can really tell. So Jon Snow is going to be a fire wight who helps bring the spring. The King of Winter is a wicker man who gets burned to bring in the spring. You guys got that. So King of Winter's whole identity is about standing against the cold. So he's the king over winter. Just as the Starks, kings of winter, They're the kings of winter because they beat the others, because they defeated winter. Okay, so now we go to the actual kings of winter statues, right? Yeah, some people are just way behind in the chat. That happens too. Sorry about that. So, okay, so here we go. The statues of the kings of winter, they get very cold descriptions, right? They have eyes of ice. They have names like Edric Snowbeard and Jon Ice Eyes. Everything is chilly about them. They have cold stares for Robert and Ned when they go down there. However, they got those black swords across their laps. And the black swords are made of iron. However, they've rusted. And so that means they've turned red. In some cases, they're just red stains on the laps of the kings of winter. But the one that Hodor pulls out, for example, is black and red. It's rusted black and red. Now, what does that remind you of? Well, Ned, of course, the first Stark that we meet, when we meet him, he's holding ice. Ice is a black dragon sword. It's made in Valyria. But the King of Winter has it. He's got a black dragon sword. First thing he does, he gets it red with blood, right? Now later, ice is split in half into Oathkeeper and Widow's Wail. And they dye it red and black. So once again, red and black sword. All right? Now this is important because Lightbringer is the red sword of heroes. But it's also associated with black swords because it's a sword made out of blood magic. It's exactly like Valyrian steel in that Valyrian steel's made most likely with human sacrifice, just like Lightbringer was. So we've got this theme of Lightbringer, the red sword. Down in the crypts, the kings of winter, they have black and red swords across their laps, all right? Ned has a black sword that gets red with blood in the first scene and then gets turned into two red and black swords, which Arya compares to the comet, which is red. So, if there's a lag, I would just say hit the reset. That's going to be on, that's probably going to be on your end. Because every time people say that, it's like some other people say, oh, it's fine for me. So, sorry about that. Right, they tried to dye it red, but the black persisted. That's exactly right. So, then we have Jaime. Jaime, actually, I'm getting ahead of it. Okay, so, like I said, Hodor takes a sword from the crypts. He takes one that is only a little rusted. So, it's a black and red sword. And here's the interesting thing. There's a thing about an Azor Ahai figure that's half ice and half fire. So when Dany sees a vision of Stannis, and it says a red sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king. And that's Stannis. He has blue eyes, but he's also got a lot of icy other symbolism as well, which I'm not going to go into now. But he's got the red sword and the blue eyes. So it's ice and fire combo. Jon Snow, when he has his Azor Ahai dream of defending the wall with Lightbringer, his sword burns red in his fist, but he's armored in black ice. So once again, it's an ice and fire mix. Now, Ned's dragon sword is named Ice. So it's a dragon sword forged in flame and blood magic, fire and blood, but it's named Ice. So we have this ice and fire dichotomy. Now, when Hodor, get back to Hodor, he takes his black and red sword out of the crypts, but when he fights with it outside of Bloodraven's cave, he turns into the archetype of a king of winter. He gets ice eyes because his tears freeze, and the snot gives him a snow beard. It says the snot froze in his beard, so he's got an icy beard and icy eyes, just like Edric Snowbeard and Jon Ice Eyes Stark. Bran is piloting him. So there's the green seer magic element happening. And then he's got this black and red sword, and he's just dealing death to these wights far off in the lands of always winter. So this is exactly an image, not exactly, but it's one image we have of the potential Azor Ahai last hero figure. The original King of Winter, right? So it's very, very archetypal. And again, it's an ice and fire mix as far as symbolism. So then we have, so this is all, again, Azor Ahai and Last Hero symbolism related stuff. And let me just get this super chat real quick. Tater Nut says, I have a hunch they will have to cut a deal with the others before the end. It's very possible. Maybe Jon has to kill Dany in Winterfell, Crypts, or Godswood. Please no. And rather than being straight up murder, it's a willing sacrifice on her part. I think if Dany gets stabbed, it would be to free her from magical enchantment. But I still don't think that's going to happen. I do think it's possible that Jon and Dany both will be otherized or given to the others as a part of a thing. But that's a little off the beaten track. So check out Journey to the Lands of Always Winter. That's a cool stream that I went into all those theories on. And Jon Snow himself, needless to say, his name is Snow, but he's a Targaryen. He's a dragon. He's an Azor Ahai person, but his name is Snow, and he's from the north. So it seems like there's one version of Azor Ahai that is an ice and fire combination. Now, there's 2 times in the story where we see people acting like they are the King of Winter, sitting like the King of Winter with a sword across their lap on a throne. Okay, the first time, well, not the first time, but the first one I'm talking about is Robb. Right after he's named King in the North, Cleos Frey comes before him at River Run, and Robb is sitting on, not a throne, but a dais of a sort, and he's got his wolf at his knee, just like the Kings of Winter, and he has his sword unsheathed across his lap. So, here it says that the sword is a threat that no one could miss, right? Bared steel is always a threat. It's also kind of a denial of guest right, if you will. We'll get to that. But the point is that Robb's sword, in this archetypal moment, runs with morning light. And that, of course, reminds us with Dawn, the sword of the morning, which obviously seems like it's associated with Lightbringer, the last year's Dragonsteel, bringing the morning, etc., etc. So there's only a couple other times when a sword runs with morning light, and it's always intentional. There's twice when Jon's holding Longclaw, and it runs with morning light. And of course, Jon is an avatar of the last hero in Azor Ahai. Then we have Joffrey, when he holds Widow's Wail. It runs with morning light, but of course that's ice. It's a Stark sword, and it's red and black with Lightbringer symbolism. Let me just go back here. Thanks. Yeah, Edric Stoneskin says, Jon always dreams of having to go down into the crypts, possibly becoming a Stone King himself for thousands of years, awaiting the next long night. Oh, that's an interesting idea. I do think that Jon north of the wall as the new Cold Hands is my favorite ending for him. So the show would have given us a baby version of that. But Jon, if Jon's going to be resurrected, he can't just go back to living a normal life. So for him, wandering the north forever would be a bittersweet ending. But yeah, maybe he'll become that's crazy. I tend to think that it will be Bran sitting down there, if anything, but not permanently. But I do think there'll be like a weirwood throne down there that Bran will use during the battle against the others. But that's a little off the beaten path. That's a cool idea. I'll file that one away, Edric Stoneskin. It's interesting the Stone Kings have resurrected Azor Ahai symbolism while Jon being resurrected around a disease that turns people to stone. Oh, you're talking about grayscale. Yeah, grayscale to me seems to be doing a lot of symbolic things, but I'm not sure exactly. I'm kind of waiting to see on that one. And could the wall be lined with magic iron, like magical strips or pillars? Happy Saturnia. So I would say, Mighty Monarch, fused black stone or oily stone, if there's something under the wall. Either that or weirwoods. Wiz the Smith thinks there'll be weirwoods. Just like at the Night Fort with the Black Gate, that there'll be more weirwoods in the foundations of the wall, which is a pretty good theory as well. Which you could run away with and say maybe weirwood magic was used to raise the wall. That would make sense. Bran the Builder is said to have learned the language of the children of the forest, so he sounds like a green seer. And just catching up with the chat. Thanks, guys. So there we go. Thank you, friends, for helping out. Okay, so Where were we? Oh, yes. Jaime. The other time we see someone acting like a king of winter, it's Jaime. And it's the time when he's just killed Ares and he's sitting on the Iron Throne and Ned finds him and it says, this is Ned talking. I was still mounted. I rode the length of the hall in silence, between the long rows of dragon skulls. It felt as though they were watching me somehow. I stopped in front of the throne, looking up at him. His golden sword was across his legs, its edge red with a king's blood. So a lot there. Not only... This drink just spluttered all over me when I opened it. That's cool. Not even carbonated. Just a ocean blue lemonade calypso. Frothed all over me. Tasty though. Oh, it's gonna bug me. Gotta wipe that up. I'll get it in a second. It's fine. It's fine. All right. So Jaime, not only is he seated like a king of winter, he's got the red sword too, right? It's red with blood. And not only blood, but king's blood and dragon's blood. So it's very Azor Ahai, if you will. And also, it's got that note of abomination. Jaime has killed the king. It's an unholy act, just like Azor Ahai killing Nissa Nissa. So it's very cool. Once again, King of Winter pose. We always get a red sword or we get morning light symbolism. That's the point. Shout out to Conquered Dawn, Morning Light for you drum and bass heads that are apparently the 5 of you watching the channel. Till the morning light. Please don't cry. All right, so there you go. You get the point. King of Winter always has this Azor Ahai symbolism, even when it's Jaime posing as a King of Winter in front of Ned, which, by the way, is maybe why this seemed so wrong to Ned. So wrong that Jaime was not only sitting in the throne that didn't belong to him, but posing as a King of Winter. And yes, there's power in King's blood, specifically the power to wake dragons. That's what all the King's blood talk about, is waking dragons. So Jaime's got a red sword. It's got King's blood on it, dragon's blood on it, and he looks like the King of Winter. Enemy solo, thank you. Yes, thank you. I knew you guys are watching. All right, so basically, the King of Winter, Azor Ahai, the last hero. They all fight the cold. So, when we talk about the Starks as Wardens of the North and Kings of Winter, well, King in the North means they're kings over the North. It means everyone in the North has to obey the Starks. The North is the subject of the Starks. So Kings of Winter means the same thing. Winter is subject, has to obey the Starks. They are the masters of winter. And how do you master winter? With dark metals. Okay? Not only iron, but black Valyrian steel, which probably kills the others. And, of course, with black dragon glass weapons. Frozen fire. Frozen fire. Again, a fiery association, but an ice and fire unity symbol. And it's a weapon to fight the others. So if you want to fight the others, you either want fire or you want stuff that's like an ice and fire synergy. A reconciled, harmonized ice and fire type of thing, like frozen fire or like the sword ice that's made out of dragon steel. These are the things that we want to fight the others, okay? So the Starks have this fiery symbolism, but it gets much worse. We're just getting started. Oh, also, Winterfell is probably the place where winter fell, meaning where it was defeated. That's probably the name of that. Also, a fell is a hill in Old English, so Winter Hill also makes sense. All right. So, gargoyles. Gargoyles, such as we find on the walls of Winterfell and also Dragonstone. The only places in Westeros where you find gargoyles, those two places, Winterfell and Dragonstone, and also weirdly Cold Moat from the Sworn Sword Dunk and Egg novel. randomly. That's for symbolism mostly. But Winterfell and Dragonstone have gargoyles, and gargoyles are associated with dragons. There's several variations of how the first gargoyle came to be, several variations of the story, rather. But they all involve a fellow named Saint Romanus capturing and burning a dragon. But the head and the dragon was evil in this story. So the head and neck of the dragon, having been hardened by years of breathing fire, wouldn't burn. So Saint Romanus mounted the head and neck of the dragon on the walls of the newly built church to ward off evil spirits. So this is kind of like that quote about capturing one of the wolves and training it to guard the flock against the other wolves. So Saint Romanus has captured a demon, a dragon, and he's killed it, mastered it, and now using its power to fight and repel other demons. That's what a gargoyle does. And that's why a gargoyle is monstrous and ugly, but they're on top of the churches. They're there to frighten away the evil spirits, and that's why they look monstrous. So you see how this works, right? But again, associated with dragons and also being turned to stone, which is interesting. And in fact, most legends of gargoyles involve them waking in the night and flying around. So they're waking from stone and then turning back to stone. Very cool, right? Okay, now, the Dragonstone gargoyles they have various forms. Some of them are dragons, some of them are hellhounds, and some of them are wyverns. Some of them, I think, are just beasts in general. But those are the three named ones: dragons, hellhounds, and wyverns. Now, wyverns are just dragons that don't breathe fire. So 2 out of the 3 gargoyles are dragons. And a hellhound, well, we'll get to Cerberus in a minute, but obviously a fiery beast. So here's a quote about the gargoyles from Dragonstone. This is from Davos in A Clash of Kings. Heat rose shimmering through the chill air. Behind the gargoyles and stone dragons on the castle walls seemed blurred, as if Davos were seeing them through a veil of tears, or as if the beasts were stirring, trembling. So the veil of tears obviously is an expression that refers to the barrier between the realm of life and death. The veil of tears. We pass through the veil of tears when we die. Okay? And so, one second here. We're just going to keep hitting this as long as it takes. I'm going to have to get Cleo out at some point. She's in kind of a mood today. So I'm just pretending she's not here, but she's not having a good time. We'll see. So the point about this quote is that George is building on this idea that gargoyles wake at night. And he's saying that they're shimmering, trembling, and stirring as if they're waking. And Davos is sitting here talking in his inner monologue about the stone dragon and how Melisandre wants to wake dragons from stone. Then he's looking at the stone gargoyles, which are dragons and wyverns, and it looks like they're waking. Right? So, and then you got the whole veil of tears. So not only are they waking, but they're waking from the other side, from the death realm. Okay, so here's a super chat from Interesting Nerd Club. Near the beginning of A Storm of Swords, Jaime describes he and Bran descending a long twisting stair under River Run. Do you think there could be powerfully magical caves or passages down there? Yes. River Run is a first man castle. There is a Godswood there. Basically, all of the Godswoods are going to have caverns underneath. And I believe that River Run, well, we know that I can't remember if there's specific reference to caverns, but yes, there probably is. If everybody can just search, and if one of the mods will even grab this, The Hollow Hills by Wiz the Smith. I believe it's going to be on Westeros.org, or maybe even copied onto somebody's blog. But that's got a list of every weirwood location and the evidence for a hollow hill beneath it. So The Hills Are Hollow by Wiz the Smith. And you could search for that on your own as well. But if one of my mods could drop that, that'd be great. Let's see. So, yes, the answer is yes. Okay, so let's see here. So getting back to Winterfell and their gargoyles, we don't know if they're dragons because they are so old that they are worn down and shapeless. Now, this is another piece of evidence that the Maesters are wrong. The first keep wasn't built by the Andals. It's thousands of years old. Because for a gargoyle to be worn down basically just by rain and snow, to be shapeless and unrecognizable, not just a little worn, but unrecognizable. And George could be, geology's, whatever. He's playing fast and loose with it. But the point is, these gargoyles are very fucking old. Okay? They're rain-worn like the Sphinx of Giza, which is not 10,000 years old, as it turns out. But nevertheless. So yes, the gargoyles are shapeless. I think if you could recognize them as dragons, that would raise too many questions. Like, who the fuck put dragons on the first keep thousands of years ago in Winterfell? Point is, those gargoyles could be. No, I just talked about the King of Winter Robb moment at Riverrun. No, it's not in Winterfell. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. It's with Tyrion, isn't it? It's when it's when Tyrion comes back by Winterfell. My apologies. Uos duis ardiwo. Is that backwards? Or is that like, you can explain your name if you want to. But yes, you're totally right. Robb also bears his steel across his lap, sitting on the throne at Winterfell to Tyrion. And the direwolves come out of the shadows like hellhounds. So again, that's very King of Winter scene. I'm not sure what the last hero symbolism would be because I haven't pulled that quote, so I apologize. I'll have to go look at it. So you couldn't find it? The hills are hollow. Let me see if I can pull it up. I think he pinned it to his Twitter. That's how you can find it. Totally. There it is. Not your fault, Girl Nettles. Thank you for trying. Here it is. I'll drop it. And I'll put it in the description after the stream. Thank you, though. Thank you. And let me go back to our... So that's good, very good companion reading for this one. So we've got these very old gargoyles. They're shapeless. We don't know. They could be dragon-shaped. They might just be monsters. They could be snarks and grumpkin-shaped. So that's fine. But let's look at the symbolism of the gargoyles during Bran's dream. That's the important thing. Squisher's back. So there was no way to go but up. This is Bran's nightmare dream. He's always climbing because it's his falling dream, right? So he's reliving the climb and the fall. He was climbing the first keep when he fell because you'll remember he was hanging from the gargoyles, right? So in his dream, it says, there was no way to go but up. Far above him, outlined against a vast pale moon, he thought he could see the shape of gargoyles. So outlined against the moon, guys, mythical astronomy clue. They're silhouetted against the moon. The moon is behind them. Okay, so I don't think the battery's charged. That would be too much to ask for. Yes, it would. But nevertheless, moon, gargoyle, silhouette. Yeah? So this is what Bran is seeing. The gargoyle in front of the moon. Now, as we know, dragons come from the moon. And when aggressive or stone things come from the moon, we're talking about moon meteor dragons, which we always are. So, outlined against a vast pale moon, he thought he could see the shape of gargoyles. His arms were sore and aching, but he dared not rest. Blah, blah, blah. The gargoyles watched him ascend. Their eyes glowed red as hot coals in a brazier. Perhaps once they had been lions, because he's thinking about Jaime and Cersei. But now they were twisted and grotesque. Also, that's like corrupted sun symbolism. Bran could hear them whispering to each other in soft stone voices, terrible to hear. He must not listen, he told himself. He must not hear. So long as he did not hear, he was safe. But when the gargoyles pulled themselves loose from the stone and patted down the side of the tower to where Bran clung, he knew he was not safe after all. All right, let me put this back. All right, so one more time. Hang on. Oh, this is going to take a praise Garth to get rid of this. Okay, so not only are they coming from the moon, the gargoyles are made of stone, just like all the dragons that wake from stone, and just like the moon meteors are made of stone, right? And they have eyes of fire, so they're fiery stone monsters. It's very dragon-like, very meteor-like. And they're coming down at Bran, pulled themselves loose from the stone. That's literally a description, a poetic description of the moon meteors breaking off from the moon. And of course, Jaime and Cersei are doing a kind of Azor Ahai and Nyssa symbolism at the top of the tower. They're doing the sex version of it. But of course, the insertion of sex is also one version of the sword stabbing of Azor Ahai and Nyssa. And instead of Lightbringer, you get a baby. So that's well known if you watch the program. It's sex and swordplay, we call that. So these gargoyles are fiery and hellish. And here's the thing. The gargoyles also do the same thing at Dragonstone. They also fall off of the walls. So, yes, insertion. It's a fun word to say. You should try it. Insertion. So, no time for the old in-out, as they say. When Dany is born, there's a storm, one of the worst storms in memory. That's why she's called Stormborn. And the gargoyles were torn from the walls of Dragonstone. A couple, anyway. Even though fused stone is supposed to be unbreakable. I guess it's almost unbreakable. Anyways, it's something that George wrote in A Game of Thrones. It might be before he decided fused stone was unbreakable. But the point is, the gargoyles are moon meteors, and they're always falling down when there's a storm. And of course, Dany's birth is very akin to the birth of dragons that we hear about with the dragons coming from the moon. So, guys, let me go get Cleo and praise Garth for a second. I will give you my other funky music, and I'll be back in just a moment. And we're back. Putting our horns back on. Adjusting the camera. Oh, let's put them wider so we can see them better. All right. Hello. Come here, girl. Say hi. Here's Cleo. She's here to cause trouble. She's in one of those moods, so I'm just warning you right now. Step down. Step down, girl. Yes, Cleo. Okay, so where were we? Hellhounds. Yes, we're getting horny. Gods, I was strong. Gods, I was horny and strong. It's a good combination. Right, girl? Girl, I'm not going to put you on my shoulder. You're just going to fight with my wig. Oh, it's the drawer. You see the drawer. Okay, come here. The forbidden drawer is open. Oh my God. There you go. Go to town. Do your worst. Just don't bite the wood. All right. Sorry, guys. It's a family program here. We got Bird Family up in the chat. All right. So, hellhounds. It should be obvious that the Direwolves are hellhounds and that they are tying into Cerberus symbolism, right? So Cerberus guards the river Styx, the entrance to the underworld, intimidating three-headed dog. Arr, you can't come in, you can't leave. So he keeps the souls in Hades that need to stay in. It's a gatekeeper figure. part of a psychopomp mechanism. Where did I get the name Cleo? Cleopatra, because she's a queen. Although I also call her a fifth put sometimes because she likes the TA sound, as we've discussed on previous live streams. Isn't that right, girl? Oh, she's happy. She's in the drawer. She's thinking about building a nest in there. I can't live in that drawer, girl. It's not big enough for me. And interspecies relationships aren't really possible. That's only in cartoons. It's strange fan fiction. All right. Where were we? So, yes. The Stark Crypts are obviously an underworld location. It's under the world. It's in the underground. And it's called the Crypts. What are you doing? Come here. Don't bite that. It's called, there's dead people that live down there. It's very obvious. And all of these kings of winter have the hellhound direwolves at their feet. They've got the swords out, which are for warding. So again, like keeping the dead spirits in their graves, preventing spirits from entering. It's the same role and function as the Cerberus hellhound. Leander's asking, I was just curious on your thoughts how the Starks and Ironborn are connected. I don't think they are. Do you think the Ironborn are descendants of the Bloodstone faction of the Great Empire of the Dawn? Well, that's true. They could be. Grey King has Greenseer and Azor Ahai symbolism. I do think that mythology is referring to those same events. I should do an Ironborn mythology stream. It's been a while. So, Leander, thank you for your super chat. I think you've spawned a whole stream just now. So I'm not going to go into that in detail at the moment. But we'll go. Grey King is like my favorite mythical figure. So, yeah. We'll go back to that one. So yeah, and they could be. The Ironborn could be non-first men, absolutely. That's suggested flat out by the Maesters and the Ironborn themselves. And yes, we do need to talk about Squishers. Nimble Dick hasn't made an appearance in a while. That's also true. So the Stark Crypts are the underworld, and the Direwolves are hellhounds guarding that underworld. And there's always, you remember that scene when Shaggy Dog and Rickon were hiding they were hiding in Ned's empty tomb. And Bran and Maester Luwin and all went down there. And then Shaggy jumped out. That's literally the hellhound action. Like guarding, coming out from the darkness, guarding the crypts. Like down there in the crypts, just guarding. So the Direwolves are very obviously hellhounds. They're doing the Cerberus role. Now, Cerberus is a fiery creature. Okay, come here, girl. Come here. That's enough drawer time. Here. That's enough. That's more than you've ever gotten in that drawer. Yes, hashtag Naga's ribs are a weird boat. Absolute Squisher King. You're preaching God's own truth right there. We all know that. All right. So, yeah. The Direwolves themselves have fiery symbolism. just like Cerberus does. So, Shaggy Dog, first time he's described, he has eyes of green fire. And then, of course, he plays the role of the hellhound in the scene that I just discussed. Summer is named Summer. Duh. Summer is warm. That's when the sun is the strongest. So that's not an icy association, is it? All right. Yeah, I like snakes. I used to have a pet red-tailed boa when I was a kid. I do like snakes. Of course I do. I'm the dragon LML. Of course I like snakes. Cleo does not, though. Anything on the floor that looks like a snake freaks her out. Like, so any sort of cable or cord, if I pull it on the floor, that's a big no-no. Girl? What's going on, girl? What's going on? Yeah, she just wants to bite my wig. See, this isn't going to work. I told you it wasn't going to work. Come here. Come here. No. I told you she was in a mood. Oh, God. The pink dread. That's her. Oh, God. Okay, so look, let me set Cleo up with a drawer over here. Just, I'm sorry, you've already heard Reading Rhaegar, but I'm going to give it to you again. Just give me 30 seconds. Come here. I'm working under duress. I'm working under duress. God damn it. Oh, girl. Get my horns in the picture here. All right. Oh, it's too high. It's hard to get everything in the pic. You know, this YouTube business isn't easy. All right? It's not easy. But I love it. It's fun. I love sharing time with y'all. And I missed you over Christmas. I did. So, Shaggy Dog, Eyes of Green Fire, acts like a hellhound. Summer is named Summer. Fur described as silver and smoke. Smoke comes from fire. Okay. Summer's eyes, smoldering like liquid gold. That's one quote. Another is shining like the sun. That's in the quote where Bran names Summer right after he awakens from his coma dream. And it says that the warmth that came off the wolf enfolded Bran like a hot bath. So these wolves are hot. They're not dire wolves. They're fire wolves. They got eyes of fire. And they act like Cerberus. Sorry. I'll put the nimble dick Baratheon back in the pocket. Ooh, are you happy to see me? Is that a nimble dick in your pocket? Sorry, the metaphor wasn't very veiled there. There's supposed to be one more veil. Okay. Anyway, yes, Grey Wind. We're getting to that, Guilty Undertaker. Grey Wind, dark as smoke. Eyes like molten gold. And specifically the phrase smoke dark is used. So Grey Wind, first of all, what is a grey wind? It's a smoke. That's what it is. Like the wind is gray when there's smoke on the wind. Smoke on the water. On the wind. Smoke on the wind. So Grey Wind, he's named after a fire. And he's got, again, molten golden eyes. So it's the fire coming off of a forge that melts metal. That's Grey Wind. Now, here's the cool thing. Oh, my mom is calling. I do owe my mom a call. We tried to connect on Christmas and missed. It's a time zone thing. It always happens. 1 second here. So, um, smoke dark is the description of Valyrian steel, and just specifically, it's the description of ice. She's calling twice. Mom, I love you. I'll call you back in a minute. She's like, it didn't go through the first time. I should take it on the air next. If she calls again, I'll take it. How about that? If she calls a third time, I'll take it. And I will call her, guys. I will call her after the stream. Call your moms. All right. Hey. That's my weed. Don't bite that. She was about to make a horrific mess. I'm so sorry, guys. You can't get this information anywhere else, okay? Do it. Everyone's yelling at me now. Stop. Stop. Relax. I'll take care of it. She's cool. Me and my mom are cool. All right? We both have ADHD, so we just, we slide around with the schedules. Point is, Grey Wind is smoke dark, and he's named after the smoke that comes from a fire. His eyes are molten gold. Okay. Settle down, chat. Settle down. Jesus. This is important because smoke dark is the description of Valyrian steel. And the first Valyrian steel we get described is Ned's ice, which is described as smoke dark. So, Grey Wind is named after a forge fire and also described in the same wording as Valyrian steel, which of course is the weapon of the Starks at the current moment when we start the story. And you should think about Lightbringer as like a predecessor for Valyrian steel. That's the important sword. It's the last hero's dragon steel sword, right? Which may be Dawn or Lightbringer or all three. We, don't know exactly. So, so these hellhounds, fiery associations compared to Forge's molten metal, Valyrian steel. Okay. Then we have this quote. This is Theon's nightmare when he has taken Winterfell and is posing as the Prince of Winterfell. He gets a very bad dream. This is like a Bloodraven special. I imagine Bloodraven sitting in the cave and being like, fuck you, buddy. So it says, the sky was a gloom of cloud, the woods dead and frozen. Roots grabbed at Theon's feet as he ran, and bare branches lashed his face, leaving thin stripes of blood across his cheeks. So the trees are attacking Theon, right? He crashed through heedless, breathless, icicles flying to pieces before him. Mercy, he sobbed. From behind came a shuddering howl that curdled his blood. Mercy, mercy. When he glanced back over his shoulder, he saw them coming. Great wolves the size of horses, with the heads of small children. Which, by the way, just what a Valyrian sphinx looks like. The body is the animal, the head is a person. So we've got these direwolf sphinxes coming at Theon. And it says, oh, mercy. Blood dripped from their mouths as black as pitch, burning holes in the snow where it fell. Every stride brought them closer. Theon tried to run faster, but his legs would not obey. The trees all had faces, and they were laughing at him, laughing, and the howl came again. He could smell the hot breath of the beasts behind him, a stink of brimstone and corruption. Corruption! Perfect time to time in. Uniquely stellar. How's it going? And there was a super chat from Anu. Anu's travel blog. In Epic's George Martin references, the heroes going into the underworld, such as Aeneas and Odysseus. After the hellhounds, they meet either their father, slowly forgetting their past life, or an old sage. Will Jon meet a phantasm of Ned? Yes, I could see that. It feels like there's a Jon-Ned moment coming, because obviously Ned told him, I'll tell you who your mother was when you come back, when I come back, and then it never happened. So I obviously think that I want Jon to see Lyanna's ghost, but maybe they'll be maybe it'll be like Star Wars. Be Lyanna's ghost, Ned's ghost, Rhaegar's ghost, all explaining stuff. Rhaegar's playing the harp. They was all make sense. And if you remember Bran's dream, when he's doing his weirwood visions, rather, he sees one of Ned before the Winterfell pond, but the Godswood heart tree has its arms wrapped around Ned, just like. And then Bran wakes, and it gives the same description of his weirwood nest with its arms wrapped around Bran. So it kind of gives you this idea that the Starks have always been under the eyes, the watchful care of the weirwoods, and that they've probably always been green seers and skin changers. That's how I interpreted that. But yeah. So there could be a Ned Jon moment coming, but there could be a limit on how many ghosts that Jon's going to talk to. So we'll see. So the point here, the hellhounds have very obvious fiery symbolism. Even though the woods are frozen and cold, these direwolves are very fiery. They smell of brimstone and corruption. Brimstone is specifically the smell of hell. That's the smell of sulfur. That is the smell. That's the dragon stink smell. That's exactly what the dragons smell like. Sulfur and brimstone. They smell like hell. So these direwolves, these firewolf hellhounds, they're basically all the same thing as dragons. Not only the brimstone stink, not only the hot breath, but the black blood. Blood dripped from their mouths, black as pitch. We only ever see black blood in the story when it's associated with fire. Cleo. Fire or resurrected wights have black blood. But there's a whole thing about the Night's Watch having black blood symbolically. So that's another. A barrack has black blood. Stoneheart, black blood. So I think that's another fire symbol as well. Now, here's the thing. And let me grab Cleo. Come here. Come here, girl. Come here. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Step down. Step down. I'll give you some pets. I'll give you some pets. Come here, good. Come here, good girl. No, I can't pick you up. You're going to fight with the wig. Just give in. Take what's offered, girl. Okay, sorry. So Cerberus. Let's talk about Cerberus. Cerberus is a 3-headed hellhound. Okay, so the Stark direwolf, obviously just one head. But the Targaryens, their sigil is a 3-headed dragon. So you could see Cerberus as being split between the Targ and the Stark sigils. A 3-headed dragon and a 1-headed hellhound instead of a 3-headed hellhound. Now here's the thing. The Targaryens have a lot of the same symbolism as the Starks. They also guard Underworld and Hell locations. Valyria is a volcanic mountain range. Dragonstone reeks of sulfur and brimstone. Okay? And it's where Stannis worshipped Melisandre and the dark god of R'hllor. So then you have also the tile dragon beneath the Red Keep that Jaime finds. Come here, girl. That was the tray of stems and powder and whatnot. Girl, come here. You can't handle the wig. Okay, guys, hang on a second. Come here, girl. I don't even know what my hair is going to look like. It's been under a wig. It's like totally flattened. Oh, that's funny. Okay, let me see if I can get something going here. Just got to work with Cleo. I don't know if the antlers are going to be a problem for her. Maybe they'll be okay. Come here, girl. Yeah. Okay. Come here, girl. The birds are notorious for not liking. I got the nice red stripe. That's cool. It's stylish. Yeah, I'm not a Frankenstein. My head wasn't just sewn back together yesterday. whenever you have stuff on your head, the birds sometimes react weird. So, yes. Okay, so Cerberus, Hellhound, just like the Starks are the guardians of Winterfell and the Crypts. And they're also kind of responsible for the Wall, which are the guardians of the far north and the lands of the dead, if you will. The Targaryens also guard these hell locations. And when Jaime goes down under the Red Keep, he finds that three-headed dragon in tile, and he thinks, I've been waiting for you. And so the underworld of the Red Keep, those hidden passages, ruled by the dragon. And that's also where we find the dragon skulls, okay? So the dragons guard the underworld. There's even suits of armor from the Targaryen dragon keepers that Sansa sees when she's going through those same passages that Arya went through. So there's all kinds of dragons down there under the Red Keep, guarding the underworld, just like the Starks guard the underworld. So three-headed Targaryens are flashing the Cerberus symbolism as well. That's the point. Now, going further, that underworld of the Red Keep that Arya goes under is basically a great parallel to the Winterfell crypts. They both have the spiral stair. Winterfell's crypts are reached by a spiral stair. Under the Red Keep, you find that big well that Varys and Illyrio come up from. Arya watches them come up with a lantern, and then she goes down after they leave. And that, again, is also evocative of the Night Fort, where there's a well, an octagonal well, with stairs that go downwards. So, forget about the Night Fort for a second. That's important too. But mainly Winterfell crypts and under the Red Keep, they're parallel places. Spiral stairs. And then in Winterfell, the empty eyes of the Stone Kings follow you. Every time you go under there. It's like 5 times. The eyes seem to follow you. And the same thing is said of the dragon skulls under the Red Keep. When Arya goes down there, the eyes seem to follow her. Then, when Arya's down there under the Red Keep, she thinks about the crypts, and she thinks about how she's not scared of the crypts, so she shouldn't be scared of the dragon skulls. And she remembers the time when Jon Snow covered himself in flour to make himself look like a white ghost and hid in the crypts, and Robb led the kids down, and then Jon jumped out and scared everyone. So we've got this parallel between the dragon chamber under the Red Keeps and the crypts under Winterfell, and then Arya connects them with a memory, and that memory is Jon pretending to resurrect as an other. So I do tend to think that is pointing towards some sort of Jon resurrection thing happening in the crypts. I tend to think Jon is going to be wighted by the others, and that they may possess his body through the invasion, and that it's not until Winterfell that Jon's body will be freed from the bondage of the others. It could last that long. Sorry, hang on a second. Yes, Arya punched Jon. Squisher be gone. Arya punches Jon when he appears as the white ghost, and that's important because when Jon dies, the stab to his stomach that finishes him is described as a punch. The Bowen Marsh's knife then it stays when the punch is over. So that punch, that could be an indication that Jon will have to be killed, like as a ice wight, in order to be freed from the bondage. It could even be Arya, but I do think that could happen at Winterfell. Again, check out Journey to the Heart of Winter. No. This one is it's one of the Jon Snow live streams. I'll have to look it up. I'm sorry, but if you look at the Jon Snow playlist, there's three videos about it. There's I always forget my titles. I'm cussing a lot today too. I apologize. I usually try to keep it a family program. Just watch the Jon Snow playlist. All right? It's all in there. Don't know what else I could say. So, Cerberus seems to have given its symbolism both to Targaryen and to Stark. And the crypts and the dragon skull chambers are parallel. Arya connects them with memory. So we see that there's a lot of things. So now when I talk about Jon going down in his crypt stream and finding dragon's eggs or dragon stuff, you see that it's not so silly. It's not so thematically like incompatible. Because I did get some people that said very reasonably that dragon eggs in the crypts kind of wouldn't make sense because it's a Stark place. It's all about the Green Seers and the others and ice and stuff. But as you can see, George is trying to show us Azor Ahai symbolism and dragon symbolism all over Winterfell. And obviously, Jon himself is a dragon. But I think this also goes back to the original Azor Ahai, the original last hero. Because if the last hero is Azor Ahai or his son, he may be a dragon person. And he was using a sword called Dragon Steel. So we already know the last hero has something to do with dragons just because of the name of his sword, right? So there you go. Starks and Targaryens, not that different. Not as different as they would appear. So for the last part of this stream, we're going to flip over to the script of Tyrion Targaryen, which is an essay you can find at lucifermeanslightbringer.com. No, is it? Yes, it is still lucifermeanslightbringer.com. Speaking of things that me and my new manager are going to be getting to is the website. That is due for an update. So we're talking about this scene. No, it's going to be up here. Sorry, one second, guys. I thought I had it set. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it bigger. By the way, these old essays of mine, it really went 1,000 directions. Good Lord. I read back over them like, this is 5 essays in one. Yeah, shout out to all you old school myth heads that used to try to follow me on those old ones, man. 2.5 hour scripted podcasts. Man, just symbolism madness. Jon might be resurrected as a wight inside the crypts if the others steal his body and bring him there. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. The point of the others stealing Jon's body is to lead the invasion through the wall. He could be the prince that was promised to the others. That's the name of the goddamn stream. Thank you, Cleo. It's the prince that was promised to the others. Watch that one. I think that's the video, actually. There's a follow-up stream to that. So, yes, the point is that the others are looking for a leader. That's what they were looking for when they found Waymar. And they could be trying to steal Jon's body so they could get through the wall. So imagine Jon, whited Jon, leading the others. How fucking terrifying is that going to be? All the way to Winterfell. And then maybe Arya, because remember, Arya is the one who punches his spirit, his powdered ghost. Maybe Arya will help free him from bondage. Probably Melisandre. We'll see. So, let me get a swig of the old sauce here. Yeah, well, if we do a Grey King podcast, that'll essentially be Weirwood Compendium 1 and 2 kind of summary. So, it's better. Okay, so let me read this quote first. Where is this mother thing? Tyrion. No, it was up higher. Where is it? Sorry. I had this set last night. I swear. Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh, I was at the end of it. I just went the wrong way. Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I just want to read these in the right order. Okay, so the first quote, this is Bran and Bran, Rickon, Osha, Hodor, Summer. Well, no, Summer and Shaggy Dog are up. Everyone else is in the crypts. Remember, they hid in the crypts when Ramsay came back and sacked Winterfell. They pretended like they went out into the woods. They created a false trail. They came back and hid in the crypts, right? So they waited until everyone left, and then they sent the two wolves up to see if everything was okay. Just like Noah's Ark sending out the two doves. So here is what Bran saw through the eyes of Summer. And thank you for bearing with me today. Very high quality content. A little bit of dead time. A little bit of bird time. That's just how we roll. So it says, the smoke and ash clouded his eyes, and in the sky he saw a great winged snake, whose roar was a river of flame. He bared his teeth, but the snake was gone. Behind the cliffs, tall fires were eating up the stars. So in the wolf dream, everything is symbol. Okay, the icicles the trees had grown icy teeth. When he says the cliffs of Man Rock, he said earlier. So those are actually the towers of Winterfell. So when he says a great winged snake whose roar was a river of flame, that could simply be a big gust of something caught fire suddenly. It was a whoosh of fire. Because fires, they do that. They're inconsistent. Things catch and they go up and down. So maybe that's just a stylized description. But obviously, in the sky, he saw a great winged snake whose roar was a river of flame, would be a direwolf's description of a dragon. I mean, that's exactly what a direwolf would think if it saw a dragon. It doesn't have language to describe a dragon, so it would say a winged snake. So this is at the end of A Clash of Kings. So did a dragon hatch from Winterfell when Winterfell was burned? It's probably not. Let's just say that at the outset. Probably friggin' not. It's probably symbolism for Jon. Again, if Jon is ice whited and awakens as a fire wight in Winterfell, he is a great dragon awakening in fire. Okay. So this could allude also to Jon, because Jon grew up at Winterfell. So a dragon hatches from Winterfell? Well, that's Jon. Jon is a dragon who grew up at Winterfell and will come into his own, ride a dragon maybe even, to fight the others, right? But what if? Let's entertain the what if, because I do think there's like a 10% chance, I swear to God, that a dragon hatched and flew away, and that it's going to find Jon and fly back. And there's another freaking dragon out there, the Winterfell dragon. I shit you not. It's possible. It's not impossible. Just hear me out, okay? Check this out. I used to believe this was more possible than I do now, but it's still worth talking about. So check this out. It says, once Bran, first of all, Osha says that they made enough noise to wake a dragon when they opened the door to come out of the crypts. It's really rusted, and it's like snowed over. And when Hodor pushes against it, it makes this horrible screaming hinge sound. And so Osha says, we made enough noise to wake a dragon. So that's interesting that George is giving us that idea of a waking dragon coming out of the crypts right after Summer saw this thing. Okay. So then as they look around, oh, actually, this is Theon in A Dance of Dragons. He says, the great stronghold of House Stark was a scorched desolation. And then later in A Dance, Theon says, only a shell remained. One side, and this is the first keep he's describing. Only a shell remained, one side open to the elements and filling up with snow. Rubble was strewn all about. Great chunks of shattered masonry. Great chunks of shattered masonry. Shattered moon. Burned beams. Burned moonbeams. Broken gargoyles. And we already know the gargoyles represent moon meteors. So shattered masonry, burned beams, and broken gargoyles. The falling snow had covered almost all of it. But part of one gargoyle still poked above the drift, its grotesque face snarling sightless at the sky. So, the first keep is a shell. Dragons hatch from shells. I'll just point that out. And then we've got these moon meteor symbols. All right. So then it says, Jon Snow, thinking of Winterfell in A Dance with Dragons. Okay. You guys got the horns for most of the stream. He says again, the castle is a shell. Not Winterfell, but the ghost of Winterfell. So Winterfell's a shell. And then it says, the first keep had not been used for many hundreds of years, but now it was more of a shell than ever. The floors had burned inside it. And this is back to the Bran chapter where he's just come up out of the crypts. The floors had burned inside it and all the beams. So again, burned beams, burned sunbeams, dark sun rays. Where the wall had fallen away, they could see right into the rooms, even into the privy. So the first keep, guys, the first keep, the castle didn't just burn. The first keep cracked open. Part of the wall fell away, and you can see Calamity Cleo. Oh, that's good. Thank you, so-called goddess. That's beautiful. And thank you, Girl Nuddles, for sticking with us. Yeah, comments don't roar. Thank you. So the first keep cracked open. Part of the wall fell off. You can see into the inside of the building. So this is kind of almost sounds like more than a fire. Sounds like an explosion. And it's described once again as a shell, a burnt out shell. And so that could be, again, implying the first keep as a shell that a dragon hatched from. Now, right before the paragraph about the winged snake whose roar was a river of flame, it says, the sky was a pale gray and smoke eddied all around them. They stood in the shadow of the first keep, or what remained of it. One side of the building had torn loose and fallen away. Stone and shattered gargoyles lay strewn across the yard. They fell just where I did, Bran thought when he saw them. Some of the gargoyles had broken into so many pieces it made him wonder how he was alive at all. And then it says, yeah, there's some bodies and stuff. So, like I said, this is some massive destruction to the first keep. And let's see, there was one more quote. Where was it? So I'm looking for the quote. There was one point in the when they were in the crypts waiting out the fire, there was one huge crashing sound that they heard. And I guess I didn't get that quote here. But there was one specific moment where there was a really loud crashing sound that they heard. And that would have been this collapse of the first keep. Because again, the crypts are right under the first keep. So part of this first keep fell off. And they heard that loud crash. And then they came out and made enough noise to wake a dragon. So it's really heavy with the symbolism here. It's hard to say that there's a fourth dragon flying around waiting for Jon. But why did George go to so much effort to crack open the first keep, to say that there is the noise of waking a dragon, to have Summer observe a dragon, and then call Winterfell a shell 3 times. I don't know. Maybe it's all to refer to Jon as a dragon that hatches out of Winterfell, but gosh, I don't know, man. I mean, it sounds like a dragon hatched. Now, here's the thing. How would a dragon hatch? How would a dragon explode out of the first keep? Well, it would have been, excuse me, it would have been one of those eggs that Jace left. Oh man, hang on. I gotta grab a breath of Garth air. 1 second. Just gotta do it. This is actually the one I wanted to wear. Let me get there we go. Come here, girl. No, you have to wait. You can't be part of this. You don't want none of this, girl. Horns up. All right. So, there you go. Did a dragon hatch from Winterfell? Probably not, but maybe. Maybe the dragon hatched and flew away, and it's just off somewhere on Skagos or something, and we'll find it at some point. It'll find Jon. It'll fly back. So okay. So how would this have happened? Well, obviously this would be going back to Vermax, and it's laying eggs in the crypts. At some point, those eggs would have hatched. So it could be that the fire is what hatched the egg. Winterfell being burned by Ramsay. And so the crypt cracked open. George gave it all that language. The thing is, a newborn dragon should be tiny. It shouldn't be a great winged serpent, roaring flame. That's already a dragon that's grown a little bit, right? So this dragon actually would have had to have hatched previously. I guess it's kind of pointless to do that. Just trying to keep the brand up. So the dragon must have been living, and this is where you can see why this is tinfoil. The dragon would have had to have been living in those caves under Winterfell for some time and growing bigger, and then it was sleeping or hibernating and essentially woke up. So the reason why this is just slightly possible is because, again, those crypts are probably connected to caves that lead out into the woods. So it could actually hunt and feed. And maybe that's why there's folklore about a dragon living under Winterfell, because every once in a while someone sees it. So it's very far-fetched, but there you go. I gave it to you guys. That's what's it eating down there? It's got to sneak out to hunt. It can't live on cave mushrooms. So, dead kings of winter. No, that's not going to feed it. So, okay, what if the dragon was petrified and the fire brought it back to life? Okay, that's actually a better idea. What if it was Azor Ahai's dragon? That's who it would be. So Azor Ahai, guys, spoiler alert, was a dragon lord. There's no question. Original Azor Ahai, definitely a dragon lord. Check out the Great Empire of the Dawn playlist. Check out the Lightbringer series. So, Azor Ahai, the original last hero, he was a dragon lord. Where did his dragon go after he beat the Long Night? Well, maybe it turned to stone. Maybe it petrified. Maybe it died and it's down there as a spirit. Maybe it resurrected somehow. Yeah, that's an interesting... I mean, that's where we are with this. But the thing is, this is a clash of kings. And so George is... Yeah, Rhaegar reads the Bhagavad Gita. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's up on all the Vedas, to be honest. Not just the Johnny come latelys like the Bhagavad Gita. He knows the originals. He's up on it. Yeah, big fan of all that Proto-Indo-European stuff. You know, Hinduism, all that kind of thing. So, is there anything else I want to say? Well, questions, guys. Do we have ridiculous questions about this? Yeah, Azor Ahai's dragon woke from stone. I mean, remember, Jon is Azor Ahai reborn, along with Dany. And so he's got to do something that's waking dragons from stone. So maybe this is his stone dragon. If there was a stone let's go step by step, okay? There's stone kings of winter in the crypts. We know the lowest levels are collapsed. If the first Stark king of winter was the last hero, he may have been a dragon lord. Okay. Or related to dragon lords. So there could be a statue of a dragon down there. Sure, there could be. Maybe that's Azor Ahai's dragon. Maybe it turned to stone. And maybe waking dragons from stone involves waking that dragon. So, yeah. This is, like I said, this is as tinfoily as you get around here. Man, this mask is confining. All right, we're doing okay. So, yeah, quick call for questions, and then I'll go ahead and get out. We're about 2 hours here. So, timing's about right. No, Rhaegar doesn't need a guru. He goes straight for the source. Yeah, that's uncomfortable. Can you see the pressure it was putting on the bridge of my nose? Yeah, see, look at that. Look at that. This thing needs a little foam pad. Do you think Rhaegar called his mom with dutiful regularity? I don't know, but thanks for reminding me. That's hilarious. Thanks, guys. Let me see if I got any PayPals too. Yeah, I sure did. Let's check those. So yeah, Elena, if you're showing up late, just go back and check it out. Definitely a great stream. Notifications, man, I wish I knew what the deal was with those. You know, people that are subscribed and have set the notification bell to all still say they miss notifications sometimes. I don't know why that happens. It's almost like YouTube doesn't want to make money. I've got no idea. I'm sorry. All I can say is, follow me on social media, either on Twitter at the Dragon LML or on Instagram. I'm at David Lightbringer. And I need to throw out a new Discord link too. Jacob says, do you think there's a foreseeable future where Jon Snow doesn't die? Well, yeah, he could be the new Cold Hands. He could be, like I said, resurrected and then just, like, guys, Cold Hands might be 8,000 years old. Cold Hands might be the last hero or one of the last hero's 12 resurrected bros. He could be the Night King. He could be 8,000 years old. In fact, I think he is more likely to be that old than like 200 years old. So, yeah, I think Jon very likely could be the new Cold Hands and just end up wandering the North by himself in perpetuity. That's bittersweet to me. Because it's like you saved the day, but where's my OnlyFans? Once in a while I think about starting one of those, but I really think I'm here for my mind, not my Not my stubborn good looks that refuse to go away, no matter how old I get. But, yeah, who knows? I'm here to make money. If there's demand for it, let me know. I think it just, like, I don't know. It makes more sense for girls to have OnlyFans. Like, it just feels silly. Posing like some sort of hunky dude. I don't take myself that seriously, really. You know? I just have Italian genes, that's all. I'm lucky. But I'm here to talk about mythology. Not show off my junk. That's not what this is about. Who said that? How did this stream get into the gutter? Thanks, Brian Price, for the super chat. We know you have dragon babies. Could you get humanoid dragons? Well, it's all about those worms that Arya has. Yeah, dude, I think the guys want I think it's the gay guys that want the OnlyFans more than the girls. That's cool. OnlyFans, but you read sexy stuff. Okay. Tasteful erotica. All right. All right, Rai. I see you. All right. Wigs doing voices. Yeah. Is Nettles still in the chat? Nettles, if you're in the chat, say something. If that old, how would Cold Hands stay sane? Well, he's kind of like absent, right? Like when they ask him, hang on a second. Bro, show us your tits at least. Terrible. Come here, girl. Come here. It's not my tits you want to see. Come on now. Come on now. So, yeah, I have thought about, okay, never mind. I'm going to keep that idea under wraps. Never mind. I've got ideas. I'll just put it that way. Like Nimble Dick or Rhaegar stuff, like in character, right? Nettles does all kinds of characters, so I think she could do something with that. OnlyFans for A Song of Ice and Fire fanfic ASMR. Sentences that would be incomprehensible to people from the 80s. Bold of you to assume Cold Hands is sane. That's what I'm saying. Because when they talk about his hands, he kind of looks at him and he's like, it says as though he was seeing them for the first time. So he's kind of like, I guess I'm dead. So like the blood runs into your extremities or something. I don't know. So yeah, he's kind of vacant. Cold Hands is a little vacant. I could see Jon ending up that way. So basically, if there's a dragon that hatched out of Winterfell, it's either Azor Ahai's dragon or it's Vermax's kid. That's what you got. Okay? Yes, I have watched Dan Davis's Ice Age Hellhound. It's a very cool video, and it talks about the hellhound myth as being so old that it was present in the Siberian hunter-gatherers, excuse me, who went over the Bering Strait because the Native Americans all have hellhound myths as well. Man, hang on a second. This is brutal. We're basically done here, but yeah, I do recommend Dan Davis's history channel as well as his Hellhound video. It's very cool. And Craig Ford also has a cool Hellhound video as well. So yeah. Is there one more super chat? Let me see if that was it. I thought there was one more. Yes. Hidden dragon in Winterfell equals Jon Snow. Maybe some interesting symbolism from George, at least. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing here, is that the dragon in Winterfell ultimately is Jon, right? Like that's the dragon in Winterfell. It's Jon. All of this stuff should be seen as complementary to Jon. And the fact that so much of this has to do with the crypts, maybe there's eggs in the crypts, maybe there's a dragon under Winterfell. Bran and all that make enough noise to wake a dragon when they exit the crypts. It really seems to suggest that some major part of Jon's coming back into his own self will take place in the crypts. So it could be Jon's dream in the crypts. It could be, like I said, the others stealing his body, getting to Winterfell, and then his body will be freed from enchantment. But there's something going to happen in the crypts with Jon, and it's going to restore him to his like full identity. Stark, Targaryen, integrated. So that's basically that's the most important thing that I'm trying to tell you guys, is just that all this symbolism about the Starks being fiery, being dragons, using black weapons, using fiery weapons, dragon swords and frozen dragon glass, dragon steel like the last hero. It's all about fighting the others, and ultimately it's going to pay off with Jon. But Jon may ride a dragon. And let's put our overlay back up. Sorry, I forgot to restore it. Boom. Jon probably will ride a dragon. He may have a flaming sword. He may be a fire wight. So he'll be a king of winter. He'll be Azor Ahai reborn. He'll be a dragon. And he'll also be a Stark. So that's kind of where all this is going. So thanks, friends. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. My voice has had it, and I've brought you the content. I feel satisfied. I've got all the ideas out. Could Arya be the one to free Jon? Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely think that would make sense with Jon and Arya being like so linked, their stories, right? So yeah, thanks for reminding me. I'm going to go call my mom. I'll probably take a minute, rest my voice. Then I will call my mom. And yeah. So thanks, guys. I love you all. Merry Christmas. Call your mom if you haven't. And thanks for the support. Thanks, Talk Studios. And I will see you again very soon. Will be next year, probably. So when am I going to stream next weekend? Sunday is New Year's Day. I think I'm going to stream New Year's Day. In fact, New Year's Eve is when all the big college football games are on this year. Michigan, I think it's Georgia, right? All the top 4 seeds are playing on Saturday. So we'll do a normal stream Sunday, New Year's Day, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern. That is when I will see you again. So thanks, friends. This has been fun. 391 people. Remember to click like on the way out, and if you would be so kind as to wait for the stream to end, click refresh and leave a comment. That will help other people see it on YouTube. All right, guys, Merry Christmas. Thank you. Happy holidays. Cleo loves you. Take care.